everyone, it's Sevi. In the Genshin Impact 4.5 special program, they announced that there is going to be a new type of event wish called the Chronicled Wish. And it's kind of a lot. There's like a lot of 5 stars on it. So what's really going on? And what are the conditions of pulling on it? What are the rules for it? And in this video, we're going to cover all of that. We're going to look at the information that they shared about this banner, how it works, and then we're going to be weighing some pros and cons about it. And at the end, I'm going to give my overall opinion about it, what I like, what I don't really like, what could have been better. So let's just get into it. Now, the first thing that we can notice about this banner is it has both characters and weapons on it, and they will be pullable from the same banner. The wishes for the Chronicled Wish require intertwined fates. These are your pink fates, the same ones that you use for limited character banners, for the limited weapon banner. Unfortunately, you can't use your acquaint fates here, which are the blue ones that you put into the standard banner. Really, the main thing about this banner is that it comes with a chronicled path. And this is important because we can see here that there are a lot of 5 stars on this selection. And if it were just like the standard banner where you can't really choose what you're getting and it's just gotcha, take the wheel, then the chances that you're going to get what you actually want are going to be very, very low. What this banner is doing is it's going to let you choose or chart a course towards one of the 5 stars here. This chart a course thing is something that we already see in the weapon banner, where you can chart a course for one of the 2 main weapons on the banner, and charting a course towards that weapon basically turns it into like your target. And like the weapon banner, the chronicled banner is going to be following a fate point system. Now, if we don't think about the fate point system being there, basically there's going to be a 50% chance that you are going to get your target 5 star. But what happens if you lose that 50-50? Then what are you going to get? If you lose the 50-50, then what you might get is dependent on what you charted a course for. Because if you chart a course for a character, let's say that you chart a course for Eula, then what you might get instead of her, if you lose the 50-50, is any one of the other 5 characters. So if you choose a character, then you might lose your 50-50 to another character. The same goes for the weapon. If you choose, for example, Beacon of the Reed Sea, that's what you charted a course for, but then you end up losing the 50-50, then you are going to get a different weapon. You can't choose a character and then lose the 50-50 to a weapon. Aside from that happening, if you lose the 50-50, you also get a fate point. You will receive 1 fate point if you obtain a 5 star that was not your designated 5 star. And once you reach the maximum amount of fate points, which is 1 fate point for the Chronicled banner, then the next 5 star you obtain through this wish is guaranteed to be your designated item. The pity of this banner is going to be 90 for both the characters and the weapons. They are on the same banner. They're both going to have a max pity of 90. Just remember that the pity count, the pity count that you accumulate on this banner is not going to be shared by the other limited banners. It's going to be its separate banner with its separate pity count. Even though the pity is 90, it's of course still very possible that you are going to get early 5 stars, and soft pity should be a thing. But considering that the max pity is going to be 90, then to absolutely guarantee you will get your chosen 5 star, you are technically going to need 180 pulls, because 90 and then 2 attempts if you lose your 50-50. That's going to be borderline impossibly unlucky. I'm so sorry if that happens to you down the line. Probability wise, it's going to take around like 160 pulls total for guarantee. Just like probability wise, okay? Of course, 180 is still going to be the max. I'm just saying it's more likely that you will need less than that even if you lose your 50-50. One important thing to note about the fate point and the pity system is that the pity count that you've accumulated on the banner will carry over when the banner changes. If you are 40 wishes away from a guaranteed 5 star from your 90 pity on a chronicled banner, and then it changes, on the new chronicled banner, you will still be 40 wishes away from guaranteeing your 5 star at the 90 pity. However, your fate point will not be carried over, which means that if on a chronicled banner you lose your 50-50 and you get a fate point, if the chronicled banner resets before you can use that fate point guarantee, then your fate point is going to reset to 0. This is similar to how the weapon banner works. This is a pretty feels bad moment, and we're going to get back to that later when we talk about the pros and cons. cons. Let's take a look at the character selection. So the character selection we have now, there seems to be a regional theme. We have Eula, Mona, Albedo, Klee, Diluc, and Jean, and they all come from Mondstadt. But then when we look at the weapons, it's not totally straightforward. Like, we do have a bunch of Mondstadt Skyward weapons. We have the Wolf's Gravestone and Song of Broken Pines, but also we have the Beacon of the Reed Sea and the Hunter's Path, which are interesting additions because these are weapons that are tied to characters that went on the standard banner. Beacon of the Reed Sea is Dia's weapon, Hunter's Path is Stignari's weapon. So ever since they came out, they never reappeared on the limited weapon banner. And we've always just been like, when are they coming back? And apparently they're going to be put here on the Chronicled Wish. Now, it's very likely that they are going to be rotated around on the Chronicled Wish rather than appearing on the limited banner since they haven't yet, or being pullable from the standard banner. So it's very likely that the Chronicled Wish is where we will see them in the future. Now, if we want to start predicting what characters we will see later on in the future on the Chronicled Wish, well, they also announced, or they gave information on how they are going to be choosing those characters. It said here that only event-exclusive 5-star characters that have already appeared on a rate-up banner at least 3 times and also have not appeared in any recent event wishes will appear on the Chronicled Wish. So the main criteria is that the character should have already been on a featured banner 3 times. And if we look at these characters, except for the standard characters, if we look at Eula, Albedo, and Klee, then they already have had that many rate-up banners. So the next question that comes after that is, when will Chronicled Wish be available? Or to me, when can Chronicled Wish change? How often is it going to change? How long is the duration for the Chronicled Wish? And all that. But unfortunately, the HoyoLab article was like very vague about it. They said Chronicled Wish events will be available from time to time. There are a few impressions that I get. First of all, it's possible that the Chronicled Wish is not going to be around every version. Second of all, yeah, they just don't say how long the Chronicled Wish is going to be around for. What I do hope is it's going to be around for longer than the typical 3-week banner. It would be pretty unfortunate if its duration is really short, especially because fate points don't carry over. So my hope is that the banner is going to be at least the duration of the entire version. It would be interesting if it lasts longer than entire version. And I'm also wondering, yeah, if it's actually going to be around consistently every version. That's all the information about the Chronicled Wish banner. Now let's weigh some pros and cons. We're gonna be starting with the pros. So what are the good things that I see about this banner? First of all, it makes older characters more accessible rather than having to wait for their rerun and not really knowing when they will next come around. Because those reruns can feel like forever, especially like the Eula Albedo rerun. Like, there was such a long lull in between their banners at one point. You know, those banners were probably less profitable when they came around as their own limited character banners. So clumping them into this different wish type banner, profit-wise, makes sense. The next thing is that we see standard banner characters on this, and standard characters cannot be guaranteed at all until this Chronicled Wish. Yeah, people will say that don't pull for a standard character, don't aim for a standard character because they're not meta, they're not that great, they're not as strong as limited characters and things like that. That is not going to stop certain players from wanting those standard characters. It's really not. There are players who will ultimately just want a character, who just love a character for whatever reason, and they're going to want to get them. And standard characters appearing on such a banner where they can be targeted, charted towards, and guaranteed is going to be a big thing for them. Another is that because we are getting limited characters rotated on this banner, that's potentially less waiting time between reruns. So it's kind of going to reduce the 5-star characters that are going to cycle on the featured limited banner as well. Because if they show up on the Chronicled Wish, then it's unlikely that they're going to show up on the limited character banner anytime soon. And also kind of vice versa, because it did say that for a character to show up on the Chronicled Wish, it shouldn't have shown up recently on the limited banner. So basically, more of them are available at once, which means that there's going to be shorter cycling time between reruns. This could also be a double-edged sword because it could give you less time to save between reruns or among characters and things like that. But also, if they are going to be like rerunning faster, you could skip this rerun and then wait for them to come back the next rerun, and ideally it's going to be sooner than how it would be without the Chronicled Wish, if that makes sense. The next thing is that you can technically lose to a limited 5-star. Let's say that you charted a course for Eula, you can technically lose to Klee, which is something that is not possible on the limited character banner. At least in this banner rate up in particular, you can't lose to Chi-Chi, right? If we're talking about the standard banner characters you can lose to, then it's gonna be Mona, Diluc, and Jean. There's no Chi-Chi yet. We'll wait for the Leo rotation, and Chi-Chi is probably going to be there. But anyway, another pro that I see is again the presence of the Beacon of the Reed Sea and the Hunter's Path on this banner. As I said, they have not appeared on the limited weapon banner since their debuts, so for it to become pullable again, for me that is a pro, because they are good weapons. They are good weapons that a lot of people have been wondering about when they will be coming back. So it's a pro for me that they are going to be appearing on this banner that you can actually guarantee. And these weapons aren't just great for their respective 5 stars. They're not just great for Dia and Tignari. Like, for example, the Hunter's Path is quite good on a Melt Ganyu, and the Beacon of the Reed Sea is like a very good generalist stat stick for Claymore users. Yeah, it's good for the Dia and Tignari mains who have been like waiting for their weapons to come back around, but in general, they are good pulls. Then another big pro is in comparison to the weapon banner, because if we go back to the weapon banner, it requires 2 fate points to guarantee the limited weapon that you want. Its max pity is 80, so it's lower, but I mean, if we add the maximum wishes needed to guarantee a weapon, it is going to be lower in the Chronicled banner. So this has max pity of 80, but then you need to accumulate 2 fate points to guarantee. So 80 times 3 is 240 wishes. But if we look at the Chronicled Wish system, its max pity is 90, but it only needs 1 fate point. So that's 90 times 2. You need a maximum of 180 wishes to guarantee a weapon on this banner. That's significantly less maximum wishes needed to guarantee the weapon here. Now, I don't think it's worth it to really go for the Skyward weapons on this Chronicled Wish banner, even if the maximum wishes needed is lower. I would personally only really use it for the non-Skyward weapons. And I'm not saying that the Skyward weapons are bad. Like, some of them can actually be pretty good, like on the right characters. It's just that, you know, they're not limited event weapon good for obvious reasons. Now, let's talk about the cons of this Chronicled banner. And really, the biggest con here is going to be the fate point system. Like, the fate point system on the weapon banner is what makes it feel bad. The fact that fate points don't carry over when the weapon banner changes feels really, really bad. We have it on the weapon banner, but we don't have it on the limited character banner. In the normal character banner, in the normal limited character banner, you get to carry over your guarantee to the next limited banner, which is what allows people to say, like, oh, I lost a 50-50 on this limited character banner, but it's okay because at least my next limited character is going to be guaranteed, even if it's going to be on the next banner. But then you don't get that here, because if you lose a 50-50 here and you would get your fate point, you are going to feel compelled to not waste that fate point and try to go all the way to your target character, because that fate point is not going to exist anymore when the Chronicled banner changes. You will want to save enough wishes to really guarantee it, which is like 160 or 180 at the very, very worst. Or, you know, take your chances, lose the 50-50, and then try to grind up enough primos to be able to use that fate point well. It would have ultimately been way better if there was a way to carry over the guarantee or to carry over the fate point onto the next Chronicled Wish, but there isn't, and that's really probably the worst thing about this banner. Another thing is that it's going to need intertwined fates. That means it's going to be competing with the other limited banners, or it's going to be competing for the savings of your other limited banners. The fate point resetting thing kind of like plays into that, where it makes it feel worse that you are putting your intertwined fates into something that risks being wasted if you lose a 50-50 and then gain a fate point and then aren't able to use that fate point well. I personally wish that we could use the acquaint fates here, and I'm sure that a lot of people wish that we could use the acquaint fates here, but yeah, I'm not sure about the feasibility of that, especially because it is a banner that contains limited characters and acquaints are strictly for standard characters. Another thing is that I kind of wish the weapon selection were more narrow, or that, you know, it had like fewer Skyward weapons so that it could like narrow possible weapons that you could lose your 50-50 to. By narrowing that pool, also increase the chances that you will lose your weapon 50-50 to another limited weapon instead of a Skyward weapon. So those are the pros and cons of this Chronicled Wish banner system that I see right now. It carries the weakness of the weapon banner, albeit to, I guess, a lesser extent, because this Chronicled Wish banner only needs 1 fate point, whereas the weapon banner needs too. This banner is ultimately just another way for Hoyo to get players to spend their primos, to spend their money, and it's definitely going to entice some because like I said, like whether it's standard characters here or limited 5 stars that aren't as profitable on their own limited banner, there are players out there who really want these characters. And this is like a good opportunity for them to get it. It is going to be enticing for them. It is the cheapest way to guarantee a 5-star weapon right now. Again, as opposed to the current limited weapon banner. And of course, as opposed to the standard banner where you can't guarantee anything. I guess you could kind of look at the weapon aspect as balancing the character bait aspect. But again, most of the weapons here are standard banner though. So hopefully in the future, when this Chronicled Wish gets rotated or changed, we can get more limited 5-star weapons on this available. As long as you perfectly understand the fate point system and you know the risks and you know what you're getting to and that you've like saved up appropriately for like maybe the worst case scenario, then if you've got all that down, you're going to be fine. You're not going to get scammed because you know exactly what you're going into. And you know, if it doesn't feature anything that you want, whether a character or a weapon, then you can basically ignore its existence. Like, it's not really going to be consequential to you. Now, if we want to quickly predict what might go up on the next Chronicled banner rotation, whenever that comes out, it's very likely going to be Lyra themed, and it's pretty certain that we're going to get Keqing and Chi-Chi on it, the Lyra standard characters, and then some top contenders are going to be Ganyu, Hu Tao, and Child. Xiao just had a rerun. He's had 5 rate-ups already, but he just had a rerun, so depending on how soon the Chronicled Wish is going to update, I don't know whether Xiao will come up. Maybe it would be too soon. Yelan, I feel, is kind of too good to be put there. Is kind of too good to be put on the Chronicled banner. And if she does appear in the Chronicled banner, I'm going to be shocked. And I feel somewhat the same way about Zhongli, because I kind of doubt that they will put Archons on the Chronicled banner. But you know what? Ultimately, we're going to have to wait and see. And we're also going to have to wait and see how often they rotate or change the Chronicled Wish. But anyway, that's going to be it from my end. Let me know in the comments what you think about the banner. If there is something on this Mondstadt Chronicled banner that you think you're gonna pull for. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all soon. Take care!